All right, welcome back to another thrilling episode of Turn the Page. This is your host, Tony Stevens Star Power. I know you haven't forgotten about me, and you haven't forgotten about my adorable sidekick, Ronnie Shanks, and our good, fun-loving Ghostman McClay himself, back again to talk about several issues that you may or may not know are coming, and you may or may not care about. Well, at least talk about them. Then you're going to be completely on the page because we haven't turned the page on you yet. But don't forget to like, subscribe, share with your family and your grandmother, and be thankful this season. That is going to be the premise of our coming episode is Thanksgiving and how to be thankful for everything that we are blessed with. And that is especially important in this year of perpetual Friday the 13th. But until we get too deep into that, let's go ahead and let's jump on some topics. First off, there's a big deal going on about the argument between a digital release of movies versus actually seeing the movies in the theaters. Now, the next one that's up on the chopping block, I do believe, is Wonder Woman 1984. So how do each of you feel? We'll go ahead and start with you, McClay. And how do you feel about purchasing that full movie to watch it at home versus actually letting it receive an opening day?
Well, I mean, it's not about me letting it receive an opening day. Personally, and this is just me, um, I could watch it on DVD. I can watch it as a digital download. My TV's big enough. Plus, I could watch it in VR and have a virtual theater experience with some friends using big screen. But as far as the theater business, I think it's bad overall. I understand and I appreciate them being cautious. But also, I think for the most part, it's about making money for them. It's not about people's safety. It's like they don't feel like if they released it now, that it would make as much money if they released it later. And they're probably right about that. So, I mean, I guess it's a good business decision. Um, but like the theaters, it's not good for theaters. So I'm kind of worried about that.
Very true. How do you feel about that, Ronnie?
Well, personally, I'm all for the digital movement just because it's really expensive to go to movie theaters nowadays. That and with pandemic after pandemic, I mean, you just don't really know. But however, at the same time, I'm torn because I really miss going to the theater. I mean, yeah, it costs a lot of money, but I mean, I loved like going there with like legions of fans seeing like the on opening day like stuff like Star Wars or Endgame. I mean, seeing Endgame in theaters, I mean, that was just an experience I'll never forget, especially when Cap grabbed Mjolnir and used
Right.
it that first time. I mean, that was just surreal. I mean, like everybody in the audience was freaking out. It was really cool. But at the same time, I'm also not going to miss all the people on their cell phones and
I don't miss all the
talking
people.
talking about yeah. I'm going to miss the fans, but I'm not going to miss the people.
Now, y'all both bring up an
Suffice to
interesting
say,
point of money, monetary income, not only for the company, but Ronnie hit on the subject of monetary output as far as us going to see these movies in the theaters. Now, this would bring up the interesting notion of, is this going to be like Mulan? When Mulan was released, you had to buy this for $30. Now, that versus a $7 movie ticket, that is a exponentially more money to do that. Now, of course, you can have watch parties and that sort of thing, have people chip in, save the money. But obviously, one person versus everyone else is going to own that digital copy. Whereas going to the movie theater, yes, if you buy your ticket for yourself, your significant other, some candy, some popcorn, whatnot, and then go sit down in the theater, you have probably spent about $30.
Yep.
So,
Especially if you have kids and you're taking some family members with you. I mean, that price can get up to 100
right, no, that's
easy.
very true. If nobody else is chipping in and you're just floating the whole boat, then yeah,
Mhm.
it can get expensive. Um, but just for the purchase of a movie, and that we're talking about there with Mulan, at least it wasn't rentable. It was just you get the movie, $30, You have it. You
And does
watch
that
it.
include the monthly for the Disney Plus, like that
No,
$30
I
figure?
think you also had to be a Disney Plus subscriber as well.
You did.
So it's
So
$30 on top of that.
Yeah,
right. So then we're
but
looking at this being: are we going to be subjected to HBO Max? Are we going to have some other subscription to the DCU? Or is it just coming straight to Amazon Prime and what other movie networks we have, like the PlayStation Store or something of that nature? And if so, is there a rental fee or is there a full purchase fee so that they make sure they don't lose their money? These are all, how they approach this is going to be more significant, in my opinion, than digital versus real.
yeah,
Oh yeah, it's much more subtle kind of thing, and everyone's trying to see what's going to work for them. And this is kind of unprecedented. And they were probably going to go this route eventually anyway, but they're being forced to like hurry up and figure out a business model for this. And so you're going to see lots of different versions of it. Like in the Mulan, $30 a pop is one, and I think what was it Trolls movie was one of the first experiments with this. But there's lots of different like digital like format like distribution options out there, and they're just trying to figure out what's gonna work for them and work for you. The only one that seems to be left out in the cold is the theaters themselves.
Right. The box office. So the
Yeah.
box office, and then they'd have to come up with a new way of counting how successful a movie is versus box office review says that we've made this amount of money on opening weekend, so therefore it is successful. Now it would
Yeah.
be an actual honest review of how much money is actually spent on these things after the fact, because we all know that a movie doesn't stop making money after it leaves box office. It's going to DVD, Blu-ray, 4D, HK, whatever.
Well, and there's merchandising, there's all sorts of ways to make
Merchandising,
money.
digital. So that movie continues to make money long after the fact, especially with some of these where, like you said, merchandising, they do have deals with companies, Marvel with Hasbro, DC with whoever makes their stuff at the time.
Whoever makes DC stuff.
yeah.
Well,
Right
it
now
kind of
it's
flip-flops around. So right now, McFarlane's doing a lot of it. They have their own
McFarlane
production.
and Spin Toys.
Yeah.
It's
So
licensed out.
they have a strange, DC just always has had a strange business model of we don't have to really be consistent. Consistency isn't key. And I think they live to see the fruits of that business model. But speaking of which, there are several movies that are still being talked about. So the company in and of itself, the business in and of itself isn't slowing down. You got Keanu Reeves has recently confirmed that they are making a Constantine Part 2. How do you feel about that?
I haven't seen the first, but I like Keanu Reeves and I like the character Constantine. I think this was a long time ago when the first one came out, but I think
You were stuck in a prison camp or something?
yeah, I was.
Okay.
Anyway, I was off put by Keanu Reeves's dark hair. Like I was like, well, he's not blonde, then I'm not watching that.
Well, it's definitely a good movie. We'll have to watch it sometime.
I'm sure I've heard good things, and I like Keanu Reeves, and I guess I have to watch the first one now.
You do.
So I'm excited.
That is mandatory. I'm going to give you that as homework. How do you feel about it, Ronnie?
Me? Well, it wasn't Keanu, it was Peter Stormare that confirmed it, the guy that played Lucifer.
Okay.
But I think I'm actually kind of excited, just because like I highly enjoyed it and I wanted to see a sequel to it, even though it wasn't really faithful to the comics, but at the same time, we already got a Constantine that's really faithful to the comics in the Arrowverse. And
He's got blonde hair.
Yeah, blonde hair. He's doing a great job, but I really want to see that movie version as well. Really, 2020's been such a crazy year. I just kind of I really want a superhero movie now. And
Yeah.
New Mutants did not count. I want a superhero movie.
Yeah, it's been a while.
It has been a while. I
Tony
think
died.
that the Marvel platform that they took, of course, going into this, they said before all of this brouhaha happened with COVID and everything, they said, hey, we're taking a long span of time off. There's not going to be a whole lot of releases, giving people a break from the constant influx of Marvel movies. But after this year, I think that people notice what kind of withdrawals they're going through from that type of entertainment.
Yep.
Yeah, I think we floated conspiracy theories that Marvel knew this was going to happen, and so they planned for it. You know, I mean, of course, that's not true. But
I know they said that WandaVision was supposed to drop this year, but it's actually dropping January 15th now.
Yeah, I was a little disappointed in that news.
Me too.
WandaVision is one of my most anticipated Marvel like TV shows.
Me too.
Yeah,
And also
that one and Loki they definitely have me intrigued. I'm definitely Winter Soldier and Falcon do their thing. That's going to be the fun, patriotic type real superhero stuff. But
I feel that will be the action
mind benders. Yeah. I want to see the mind benders that are going to be Wanda Maximoff and Loki himself. So
yeah,
those two I'm really excited about. A lot of the other ones, it's like I'm not. To be honest, even their movies that they have slated coming up with like the Eternals, I'm not sure how I feel about it. But at the same time, before Guardians of the Galaxy was released, I didn't know how I was going to feel about it, because at the time I was like, well, yeah, it's kind of a funny recent thing in comics with the Annihilation storyline. Okay. And then they attached James Gunn to it, and it was like, okay. And then I started seeing previews, and I was like, it looks kind of good, but it's still, there's no way that this is going to be a good movie. And now it is one of my favorites of all time. I watched it.
I had that experience too with the sequel, like, because I was like, there's no way that this could ever be as good as the best Marvel movie ever made. So I'm going to lower my expectations. And then it turned out to be even better, like an order of magnitude better.
It was
like,
really good. So they have done
a
a
little
good
bit.
job of that. So I'm waiting to see what they slap me in the face with their new upcoming model of what they're releasing, because they gotta have new characters, new blood, new story, new art going on. So I'm waiting to see what they surprise me with, because honestly, I didn't think they were going to pull off a lot that they have done so successfully. It's just it's
consistently
historical.
successful. That's there's something in their magic sauce that, because that's really hard to do once. Try doing it consistently.
Like 22, 23 movies. Yeah, they're doing it right. They have it down to a science, and it baffles me that DC still sits there floundering half the time trying to figure out how to replicate this for themselves, when you have a very let's talk about future state for a second. Let's just do this. This is DC. The DC new line of stories coming out for the comics is basically, if you've ever read any of the Marvel's Old Man stuff, this is what we're getting from DC now, is Old Man DC. So you'll have Superman as an elderly person, but then his grandchildren are the ones running around being either Blue Lanterns or Superboy or Superman. You'll have Batman completely retired and being pushed forward with a new Batman. The future state is like this new wave that they're releasing to see if they can, I guess, shock us into reading some new stories. And I'm willing to try them as long as they do a good job and convince me why the change was necessary. I don't know how you feel about that.
I mean, they're not changing. They're just kind of like almost like what if, right? They're not like necessarily canon. I was approaching it like these are going to be interesting stories, and I wouldn't mind reading them.
They are canon.
They're completely canon, yeah.
Well, I could be on
like Batman
just as
Beyond
easily.
was the canon future, but now we've got a new canon future that wipes out Batman Beyond.
Yeah, so like that's just proves
Or
the
goes
point that
beyond Beyond.
anything that's canon can be uncanonized in an instant. So like, don't worry about it. If it
Yeah,
doesn't work
because
out, they'll
DC,
just
they
undo
can
it.
completely take it away from you anytime they want to.
Yeah.
Well,
I mean,
the future state, it's kind of confusing because I thought it was just going to be set during just one period of time, but apparently it's the future, like in several different time points. Is what I'm finding
that
out.
sounds
It's
interesting to
very
me.
confusing. It could be
'Cause
very
I'm
interesting.
intrigued. I'm gonna say I'm intrigued.
Because I mean, like the Superman thing, like where he was an old man, but then again, you have the one where he was traveling, space and looked like he was on, planet Superman, basically, or World War Superman.
Right.
I don't know. And then you have the House of L, which
Hmm.
it looks like he's like, oh wow, he has a house and like he has a lineage. He has like his children and grandchildren there, and some adopted few as well. One of them was one of the Starfire's people. I keep forgetting what their race is named. I think it's.
Tamarain.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
But yes, she's one of them, and I mean, it looks interesting. I mean, I'll give them that. And now they just dropped another one, like to where it looked like Superman and Batman stopped being friends, and I'm just like, again.
Yeah. So that's all I've got to say about that. DC they seem to have a problem with consistency. They seem to have a problem with figuring out what it is that people want us to read, but they have such a base, small group to tell stories about, realistically.
Maybe they should like lean into their inconsistency. Like just every month, new story. Doesn't have
just
anything
go
to do with
wacky with it and have fun.
Yeah.
That,
just like have like just an assortment of miniseries. It seems like in some ways they are doing that, but their problem is trying to tie that to some sort of established canon. Like
Right.
the Three Joker story is an interesting idea. Why do you have to tie it to like canon? Why can't it just be a standalone? In fact, just everything. You have an interesting idea for Batman? Yeah, let's do it. Robot Batman from the future, whatever. It doesn't matter. As long as you're true to the core and ideals of the character, I think, then you don't have to do everything Marvel does. I think that's part of their mistake is that both cinematically and in comics, they try and replicate what Marvel does. Really, they need to forge their own path.
Yeah.
Don't
copy them. They've already done it, and they've done it perfectly.
Well, yeah, and they don't know how to copy them. So that's honestly, if they're going to keep doing it so poorly, they need to stop.
Yeah, be your own publisher.
I think that's what's starting to happen with their movie stuff. Because I mean, you have the Batman coming out, which isn't really tied to any of the other continuity.
Mm-hmm. And the Joker's a good example of that too, and it was highly successful.
And they're talking about how everything's is connected, but not really.
I think that's
everything's in the
multiverse. Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, it's in the multiverse. But
it's in a multiverse. So like everything happens
for the 1980s and Crisis on Infinite Earths coming along to give us a multiversal concept just to explain their inconsistency for decades. But nonetheless, we've also got some great toy news coming out. Hasbro has released images for their upcoming waves. Now there is a Build-A-Figure Stiltman. Could care less, in my personal opinion. Why would you think Stiltman was a good idea? No, I'm not. I'm not down. But the House of X wave that they're releasing looks pristine with Cyclops, Jean Grey, Wolverine, Magneto. A lot of reissue characters, but an exciting new way to look at them. Now, one of the things that I'm really excited about is getting on my hands on that Thanos figure because it also has the elderly King Thanos head that goes with it. And realistically, in Marvel, you give me an old man version of something and I'm down. I don't know why it works so well for them. They give me a grizzled old Clint Eastwood version of a character and I love it. But yeah, check those out. Look them up on your local Google Drive, or check it out on Amazon,
I'll
or
look 'em
wherever
up.
you got to find your information.
Yeah.
from.
And they also got some Bad Batch figures coming out for the Black Series for Star Wars as well.
So, and
Those
again,
look
Todd
awesome.
McFarlane's still running his Kickstarter for Spawn.
Yes.
Should be releasing soon. So I'll be excited to see the first images of
Yes.
an actual received figure to see how well it's produced.
And we will be doing an unboxing here as well.
Yeah, that's
Cool.
right. So looking
be
forward
sure
to
to
that.
tune in.
And we're going to go ahead and cut to a commercial break real quick. And when we come back, we're going to tell you more things we're thankful about in this Thanksgiving season, and continue to have a blessed year. Even when you think it's bad, you're still kicking. So it's pretty good. And don't forget to join us right back here and find out what else we're going to get into.
In a lonely, lonely desert east of Nairobi, there were some pyramids standing there. Who knows what formation they were in? Then a hero named Hydro walked in and he said, "Here I am in the sand again. Here I am, up on the pyramid. There's some lightning. I don't know where it is, but here I